It's really interesting reading different books on the topic of finance because everyone has their own take on how people should manage their money. One topic in particular, which usually has people on both sides of the fence being for and against, are credit cards, because it's a pretty popular topic to discuss. And you bet, as someone who sits very clearly on one side of this fence, I'm a strong advocate for people to have a credit card within a certain number of parameters and rules. I'm going to be discussing it today. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in today's video, I'm going to be discussing, arguing with myself about the question, are you disciplined enough to have a credit card? This book here is one that I finished not too long ago. It's called She's on the Money, written by Victoria Devine. You've probably heard of it if you live here in Australia and are into reading any type of non-fiction/financy books whatsoever. Targeted mainly at women living within Australia looking to begin their financial journey, the book introduces a bunch of financial concepts in an easily digestible format and tries to keep everything as simple as possible. I used to be a big fan of how this relatively dry information was presented, but have since formed different opinions on some of the very specific topics which often come up. I think for the more money-sensitive topics, the dry nature of how this information is presented is actually more beneficial for the end user. As the person who is going to be learning about that topic, they really need to commit to absorbing everything there is to know about that topic if they're trying to learn about credit cards, as one example. That is one that often comes up and one that I would absolutely slot into this category. Specifically from that is the argument as to whether or not someone should have one. The argument that's presented in this book here is that credit cards aren't bad, it's that people are bad with them. That credit cards are one culprit which holds people back from achieving certain financial goals. Statistics indicate that credit cards encourage you to spend more money, because it takes the pain out of the exchange of that money when you're ringing up a purchase at a checkout. Now, I will admit that I know certain people who have adopted the tendency to be quite careless with their spending, and it does make me wonder if they are falling for this trap as well, being they're spending more or influenced to spend more because they own a credit card. Let's just park that for one moment. The book also makes reference to people who are quite good with their credit cards. I'm talking about people who make sure to pay off the amount owed in full before interest is charged, just as one example, and they definitely don't overdraft that card as well. Generally, those are the people who reap the rewards of earning points. They get to spend them on goods and services as a bit of a bonus for being smart and responsible with their credit card. This is where Victoria in the book refers to these people as outliers or exceptions, because they are not the norm. And this is where I give myself a bit of a pat on the back, because since I opened my credit card, I believe that I have been pretty responsible with my credit card. I have not been influenced with my spending, and I have reaped the rewards by maximizing the earnings potential since I began spending on that card. Pretty much as a one-liner, since I opened the card, I have put almost $500,000 through it, which in turn has got me quite a lot of rewards. In that time, I have not paid $1 in interest on the card. I have not paid any fees to have it, and I definitely haven't spent frivolously. Aside from having that main credit card, I've also opened new credit cards too in that period of time to maximize my earnings potential without spending a single dollar to have them. No expense to me whatsoever, maximizing rewards again. To learn more about how I find these deals and offers, I personally use PointsHack, which is a one-stop shop website dedicated to everything credit cards. I've left a link down in the description below to both the website itself and a video I've made talking about how this website works at length, so feel free to use that resource as you wish. I'm not sponsored by PointsHack, I just think that the website provides all the information you need about any deals they have on offer and how they might fit your needs if you were looking to actually obtain one and you were looking for a deal that was going to suit you. Anyway, I kind of went off track there. The point that I'm trying to make is that I have fully funded flights and accommodation for most of my major holidays over the past 5 years from having access to this tool at no extra expense to myself. It's a big deal. It's something definitely worth understanding because it accumulates to thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in savings on those types of expenses. I really truly have seen the value in having one because I am disciplined enough to maintain healthy spending habits whilst also having a card with a high limit. So we move on to the question now for you, the viewer. Are you disciplined enough to have one? What rules have I put in place over the years to make sure that I do not get caught out by these traps? Rule number one, it might sound pretty stupid, but if I was not going to buy it in the first place, I'm not allowed to buy it on the credit card or technically at all. This mindset is centered around avoiding unnecessary purchases, similar to impulse purchasing, and it's not overly difficult to follow and so far has kept my budget under control. Number 2 is to obviously make sure I'm paying off the card before it accrues interest. It's probably the most important one on the list, but it's one that I'm definitely conscious of because I go a little bit of a step further. I make sure that pretty much after 24 hours, I've paid whatever I've spent off from my various accounts. If I've paid a bill within 24 hours, I'm transferring it to the card. Some people like to keep all their expenses until the interest-free period's about to end and then they pay off the card in full to save interest owed on their mortgage. Yes, it is a strategy if you are anal enough to do that. Personally, which is kind of crazy that I personally just like knowing that the card is fully paid off. I'm already being rewarded for having it. I don't need to save a few dollars in interest over the course of how many years I'm going to have that card. For some, it's absolutely viable, something worth doing, not denying it whatsoever. I personally just don't do that specifically. Number 3 is that I don't use the card if it's going to cost me to use the card. Lots of places have different types of surcharges and it's something that I'm pretty vigilant of. I make sure that I'm not being charged to use this. I'm not being charged to earn these rewards. That's super important to me because it kind of defeats the purpose if you're paying to earn points. If you're just getting them as a reward for doing nothing whatsoever, great, I'm all about it. If it's gonna cost me, no thank you, I'm not gonna use it for that specific purchase. Number 4 is if the card is going to cost me anything to have whatsoever, I'm not interested. I don't need to spend money to earn points. Again, if it's a bonus, something that I can do at no further expense to me, absolutely, I'm all for it. Otherwise, I'm not interested whatsoever in trying to chase points at my own expense. I treat having a credit card that generates points as a nice bonus to the everyday steps that I'm going to be taking anyway throughout my day, my weeks, my months, my years, my life. It is like having access to your friend's Netflix account, but not having to pay them to use the subscription. It's a pretty sweet deal, but if they said, hey, I want some money for you using my account, otherwise I'm going to change my password, you would probably have to really think if you're actually going to get value out of paying them for that service, which I'm not saying to do that and be stingy. I'm just saying the example is perfectly fitting here because in that moment you'll go, okay, do I really need this? Do I really want this? Am I gaining value from it? And then you'll come up with a decision and that's how you proceed. Whereas if it was just offered to you, hey, here's my Netflix login, watch whatever you want, whenever you want. Of course, you're going to have that there, even if you don't use it. It's no different to me with a credit card. It's a bit of a silly analogy, but I think you understand the point. And number 5 on my list is that I have enough expenditure each year for it to be viable to have a credit card. For some, they will not spend enough money in a year to generate enough points to do anything. I have a lot of money going through that credit card, so it's viable for me to generate points that I can actually go and use. I'm not chasing points. I have to spend money on these types of things, whether it be bills, things on my rental property, whatever the expenditure is. The point is for some, it's not going to be ideal for them to have a credit card. Some others, it absolutely is. You need to weigh it up. You need to figure out what your own spending is like, and that will allow you to come to that conclusion. Overall, the decision to get a credit card should be somewhat based on the 5 rules that I've just covered. You yourself should be able to do that analysis. You should be able to look at it and go, yeah, I can follow these 5 rules and I have access to a credit card through my home loan, which is free. I'm absolutely going to jump on this. Why haven't I been doing this sooner? It should be you who's able to come to that conclusion. I have now grown into the habit of treating having a credit card as if money was being spent directly from my bank account, which allows me to be good with the purchases that I make. If you don't think that you're disciplined enough to do this, then Victoria's words are probably in your best interest to follow, because you definitely don't want to get caught up with the bad debt that can come with credit cards. And that's where I'm pretty much done for today's video. I don't have much more to talk about. It was a fun topic for me to really think about. What makes me different with my credit card? Do I really spend more than most? I wanted to kind of address them myself and then put them into kind of some steps that anyone could look at and go, yeah, okay, I understand how that can work for someone and it might be applicable to me. Maybe I should get a credit card. Hopefully I've given you that insight. If I have, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. Yep, it's 2022. That would be much appreciated. And that's all I have. So I'm going to leave you there. Have a good day. Have a good week. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.